everyone. My name is Ashley Spalla. I'm from Miles for Hips, and welcome to the Hip Dysplasia Experience patient interviews with Annick today. And I will read a little bit about Annick's backstory before I intro her. Annick has a long storied history of hip pain starting when she was 14, when she was a 100, 200-meter runner. She initially thought she pulled her hip flexor and got intermittent hip pain with sharp pain in her groin, which would make her leg buckle under her, but it never happened in front of anyone. So she just thought it was one of those things that didn't really impact her much at that time. 3 children and 3 natural births later, she decided to take up distance running again at the age of 39, ran her first marathon at 40, and she was hooked. She had her fastest time in 2008, but again was starting to get intermittent straining feeling in her groin, but nothing seemed too concerning. She thought physio would be able to fix it in her view. Then one day, walking with her physio, her leg buckled, and he immediately sent her off for an MRI, which diagnosed her with fluid on the psoas tendon. 3 cortisone injections, and she was still struggling, so she was referred to another consultant or doctor for the US individuals who diagnosed her with hip dysplasia after getting her x-rays performed. He wanted her to wait till she was in too much pain and then needed a total hip replacement, which she definitely declined. So she was referred to the great Mr. Johan Witt. Looking back in her baby book, Annick found references to walking on tiptoes and in odd gaits when she was a baby. She was also sent for x-rays and blood tests at the age of 2, which she now realizes was probably for her hips after being diagnosed with severe congenital dysplasia and looking at the mother of all hip surgeries, the PAO. Welcome, Annick.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm fine. Nice to be here.
Glad to have you. So you've definitely been through a lot in your life when it comes to hip dysplasia.
Yeah, I have, but I suppose unknowing that I had it. So it was just, you just carried on, regardless, totally unaware of what actually was going on inside your body until it all started to unravel at the age of whatever age I was, 46, when I started, sort of started having the major pain. But even then, it wasn't that major.
That's amazing. And then to get to Mr. Witt so quickly was pretty phenomenal. A lot of people spend years to get to doctors such as him.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it seemed like an age because from sort of when I first started having the initial hip pain and was referred by my physiotherapist, he told me to go and have an MRI done. So I went and saw the first consultant who sort of misdiagnosed me with fluid on the psoas tendon. Um, you know, I wanted to get back running. So every day missed from running was like a year. It was
Yes.
mentally so difficult not to be able to run. So yeah, even it was 9 months from when I first started seeing him to when I finally got to see Johan Witt. It seemed like an eternity, and which was why when Johan said, "Okay, you need to do both hips," my reaction was, "Okay, we'll get them done within 6 months of each other, just so I can get back to running."
Yeah, exactly.
But
I
yeah, it's compared to a lot of people, I was incredibly lucky that it was only 9 months.
yeah, that is quite incredible. Um, what one thing has helped you the most during your hip dysplasia journey?
I think for me, it was having been a ballet dancer and a gymnast when I was younger, and always been, always enjoyed being active, being fit. And it basically the strength of my muscles that held me together for as long as they did until the actual sockets finally, obviously, were damaged beyond what they could deal with, which was when I started developing the more serious pain. But I think, having been a ballet dancer, and as I say, a gymnast, doing all that strengthening really helped keep my body together.
Oh, for sure. The compensation,
Mm,
uh, that core compensation definitely could have helped for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
What has been your biggest challenge related to hip dysplasia?
Not being able to run the way I used to be able to run. And it still bugs me now. Yeah,
Yes, running
that
is,
was the hardest thing. It was not to be able to, just go out and run 10 miles without even thinking about it, and having
yeah,
to start from scratch again. And, I never got back to the level I'd been at prior to the operations, but age wasn't on my side either. So,
yeah. Um, I used to be a distance runner as well, and so it's like a sickness. It
yeah,
really is. It
yeah,
just
yeah. And
uh
it hurts not to be able to do it,
yeah, it
you know.
just to
Yeah,
pick up the running shoes and not be able to put
yeah,
them on, slide them on, and just go out for a run whenever you
yeah,
want.
yeah, yeah. It's heartbreaking. But, I again, it's one of those things that I looked at and I thought, I'm still able to get up and walk around. I need to consider myself lucky that I can do the things that I can do. It's a trade-off.
It's a wonderful perspective to take on it, though.
Well, I think sometimes you have to, don't you? Otherwise you'd just be down in your boots, suffering from depression and, sadness the whole time. Whereas, okay, I don't run as much now. I haven't for the last sort of 6 years since I had knee problems and then bunion problems. But, you know, just to be able to go out and run for 100 meters for me at the moment would be enough.
Yeah, that's great.
You
Is there
know,
anything you like to do now that you didn't do as much then that you do more now of?
um, I do more walking, more hiking. But again, I don't know whether it's age or whether it's the fact that because I had lifestyle change 5 years ago, so I had to stop going to the gym and all that sort of thing. I don't know whether that has had an impact, but I struggle now walking long distance,
Okay.
particularly up mountains like we've got in Wales. Nothing like you've got
Yeah.
in America, but they're pretty big in Wales.
You've got some big
You know,
ones in Europe.
yeah, so I have to think about it. It's not a right. Let's just go and walk and do the 20 miles or whatever, which I would love to be able to do. But as I say, I don't know whether that's just because I haven't been able to go to the gym more regularly and keep that strength up. And it's something hopefully next year I will be able to start working on, to get my hips a bit stronger.
What is something positive that has come out of your hip dysplasia journey?
Um, I think if I'm honest, it's getting to know all the people in the PAO groups. You know, what an amazing community to have. And, so supportive. And, from day one when it was prior to the Facebook groups, but it was the Hip Women Yahoo group, um, you know, that kept my sanity,
I agree. I
because at
remember
three
that
o'clock in the
group.
morning, yeah, when 3 o'clock in the morning when I couldn't sleep because I was thinking things through and worrying about stuff, I could message somebody and somebody would message back.
Yep.
you know yeah, it was an absolute lifesaver, that. And so, yeah, that is one of the reasons why I've hung around in the groups, because I got so much support during my time that I felt the least I can do is stick around and give support back over the years.
Like a way of paying it
Yeah,
forward.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think it's been brilliant. And I think what you guys are doing in the States has just been absolutely brilliant, and I love being a part of it.
I think that's beautiful, Annick. I love that. what advice do you have for individuals with hip dysplasia or caregivers for hip dysplasia?
Um, Golly, I think one of there's a few, I suppose, a few things. Rehab, rehab to me, in my view, is absolutely key to one's recovery, and you get out of it what you put into it. So don't skimp on the exercises. Do the exercises, but yeah, for me, that was what got me back to running. And hydrotherapy, absolutely key to recovery as well, if you have access to that sort of thing. But also retaining a sense of independence and not feeling that you have to be totally reliant on somebody else when you first come out of hospital. Yes, if you want to be reliant on somebody, that's fine. But I personally found I needed my independence. I needed to have some, things like, just being able to put the washing on, rather than having my husband at the time, now ex, doing it. It was just, no, let me do it. If I need help, I will ask, but don't just do everything for me, because I just, I want to still be me, not the patient, sort of thing.
I love that. That's really cool. I love that. Those are very those are very good things. I think rehab and prehab
Yeah, prehab,
before
absolutely. Yeah,
is such a good
yeah,
idea.
yeah,
They're so key um, to the PAO recovery,
yeah,
to the surgery.
yeah,
But I love the independence aspect too, even just keeping a little bit, doing even just a task a
yeah.
day or something that you
Well,
do that's
I
just
remember,
something really simple.
yeah, I remember, with my second PAO, I had it done end of October, so it was starting to get to winter, and I'd been at home 4 weeks, and I suddenly realised it was coming up for the 1st of December, and I hadn't got advent calendars, and my husband was up in his office on a conference call, so I decided to crutch up into the village to go and buy advent calendars. And I hadn't really realised quite how far it was up into the village. And I eventually got home, crutching my way home with my 3 advent calendars, and just about passed out on the settee from exhaustion. but
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 you
it
did
was
it.
but I did it, and it was just, when my husband came down, he said, what on earth have you done? I went, I walked up into the village. And he said, what, you did what? And I went, yeah, it seemed like a good idea at the time. He said, but you could have waited. And I said, I didn't want to wait, you were busy, I wanted to go out. So I did.
I can definitely see you doing that.
I think the woman in the shop thought I was absolutely off my trolley.
I can definitely see you doing that. That's definitely right up your alley.
I mean, it's also like, I practiced vacuuming the house on one crutch before I went in for my PAO, to see whether I could do it, because I thought, well, if everyone's out and I see that the floor's dirty, I want to be able to vacuum. I don't
See, I
recommend.
would
Yeah, I don't recommend it.
I would just buy the robot vacuum that vacuums for
Well,
me.
unfortunately, Ashley, back then they didn't really have
That's
them.
true. That's true. When we had ours, they didn't have those.
Because if they had been around, I would have bought one. Believe
One,
me.
exactly. So true.
But yeah, I do not recommend trying to vacuum on one leg. It's a recipe for disaster. I had some close calls, but I hope I vacuumed the house.
But you did it.
I did it.
Oh, what a sight.
When I told the physio in the hospital that I'd been practicing before going in, she literally nearly fainted. She said, "Promise me you're not going to do it when you get home." I went,
You're like, maybe not. Maybe. Oh, tell us a positive interaction with your surgeon or another healthcare professional along your hip dysplasia journey.
Okay, my positive was my first appointment with Johan. Um, and I walked into his office. We shook hands, and I looked at him before I even said hello, and just looked at him and said, "Do not tell me that I won't be able to run." And he looked at me and he said, "You'll be able to run again, just maybe no more marathons." And I latched on to maybe. He didn't say definitely. And that was the best interaction I ever. He's an amazing surgeon, and I absolutely love him. Yeah, he's brilliant. But yes, that was the best interaction because he said maybe. He didn't say definitely. I think
Yeah.
the next best interaction was as I came out of the anaesthesia from the first PAO, and he was leaning over my bed and he said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "Fine, really good." I said, "So while I've got your attention, how do you fancy doing the other hip within 6 months so that I can walk the London Marathon next year?" And he looked at me and I looked at him and I said, "I did warn you that I would challenge your surgery and that you would rue the day that you ever set eyes on me." And he still looked at me and he said, "We'll see how you're doing in 5 months' time."
Yeah, I definitely think you got a spunky patient with you.
Complete and utter nutcase. But
Although
yeah,
I
I mean, it's got me. I mean, whether I've just been lucky, I don't know. It's got me 15 years of my PAOs, and touch wood. Yeah, I mean, I've got a little bit of issue going on with my right hip at the moment, but it's not the actual hip as such. It's potentially the pudendal nerve, from where I had my stress fracture on the pubic
yeah,
ramus. I'm having issues with that, which are being looked into at the moment. I've got an MRI in a couple of weeks' time, so hopefully that will get sorted. But generally speaking, I've had the odd glitch over the 15 years, but it's all been soft tissue stuff. There's never been any, I mean, initially when anything, the slightest pain, it was, "Oh my God, this is it, total hip replacement." But now I just go, "Oh yeah, it's soft tissue, whatever, crack on," sort of thing. I've been incredibly lucky in that respect.
that's amazing. And thank you so much for joining us today, Annick. We greatly appreciate that. And thank you
No, it's
everyone
been a
for
pleasure.
joining us um, for this patient experience interview and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Take care.